facts first, then I'm going to do a screamy rant. It's not directed at you. It's not directed at you people. It is directed at people who keep doing this, and I'm sorry, but they need to be called out on it. But let's talk about our first bad guy. A recent internal ATF email got leaked. They took notice of some products. The 2-stage hard reset wide open trigger that shortens the length and time the trigger needs to reset itself. It uses the elastic energy of a patent-pending spring carrier to force it into a neutral or reset position, 2-stage. And they also took notice of the 1/8 of an inch force reset, $450 Rare Breed FRT force reset trigger, 15 reverse hair trigger. That both still only allow a single shot per now smooth, crisp, creep-free trigger pull in a semi-automatic AR-15 platform. But the ATF wants to retro-classify these drop-in trigger groups as machine guns, violating the NFA, even though they clearly don't, because their own rules say single action of a trigger by a person pulling the trigger. The ATF relies on not having definitions be fixed in reality, and it is absolutely evil of them to do this. Now, the reason I'm saying that is the ATF isn't doing this to make the world safer or to actually get rid of machine guns. Because this isn't a machine gun. And I don't mean that in gun advocate speak. I mean it literally isn't a fucking machine gun. If you pull the trigger, it fires once. If you release it, it doesn't fire again. There's a type of trigger that allows you to pull the trigger and release it, and it'll fire when you release it. So you go bang, bang. You have to take your hand off, and unless you do a specific thing like, well, there's various things to do. When you pull the trigger, when you release it, it'll fire a second time. And some of them have a function on it to where you can disable that. So it's truly single pull, single fire, and then release. It resets. This doesn't even do that. This just makes it to where the reset time is like from here, click. Its reset is much faster. This is something you can do by altering not even the gun, but the trigger group yourself. They're just doing it to where it's reliable and safer. And it is literally the same thing as a hair trigger, in that a hair trigger responds to a tiny amount of movement this way and then resets. This one relies on you pulling the trigger fully with very little creep, and then when you release it, force resets it. So it's a hair trigger reversing. It's a hair reset or a hair trigger reset. It is not in any way, and by the way, this isn't new, but I'm not going to go into that patent. It's not a patent, it's a write-up from a long time ago from a book. It's not a fucking machine gun. It just isn't. The ATF has been spending time, there's a specific subsection in their group. Instead of enforcing rules or doing their goddamn job, they go off and look for things to do to get attention. And if they perceive a permissive environment, it's in this case, maybe it is the Biden administration, but I doubt it. If they figure they can get away with this, they will. Is this trigger designed to make it into a machine gun? Anything that increases the firing rate of a firearm can be potentially declared a machine gun if it only has the purpose of increasing firing rate. No. If any of you aren't aware of it, pulling the trigger on a firearm, if you're handling a pistol, or if you've done so and you're going, when you fire a pistol as you're pulling the trigger, it's very hard for your hand not to move out of position over its entire length. You will aim differently depending on pulling the trigger. Control of the trigger pull is incredibly important. After the shot is fired, the gun may or may not stay directly on target. Then when you release, it's another movement of the hand. Unless you have the thing bolted into a frame brace, which they actually don't want you to have either, you are going to shoot less accurately, which may be very, very lethally important to you. or just so you actually hit the deer to where it drops instead of making it miserable. Making a firearm shoot more accurately has explicitly been said. Whether they want to say it out loud in a court case, they'll deny it with every breath of their body. The ATF wants to make sure that if you have a firearm, you're as inaccurate as possible. Yes, that's the wrong word. Inaccurate's the correct one. Government. They do not want you to be accurate on shooting on the second shot. Why? Because a study by the U.S. military and the FBI and ATF found out that the less work you have to do a follow-up shot, the more dangerous you are in a firefight. That's what they want if you're a warrior fighting overseas, a cop dealing with an attacker, or a person attacking your house. But they've explicitly stated because it's very rare for people, who, even gun owners, to have to defend themselves in a house against an attacker by firing even more than one shot most of the time. It's usually 3 shots on average, what data we have. They felt it was not only less important for them to be accurate on the second shot, which is stupid because if it goes past my head, kills the next door neighbor, now it's suddenly very important. They felt it was detrimental to, and one of the quotes that was very telling with the ATF was controlling people in general, and a bunch of other wording that really just sounds like they want to be able to raid your house when they've got the wrong address and get away with it without having as much paperwork. I'm not pro-Second Amendment. I'm anti-tyrannical assholes shooting your dog. The ATF is notorious for being very useful when you're dealing with terrorists and being utterly worthless when it comes to ordinary citizens, where they end up just shooting a kid. I mean, literally, the ATF needs to be disbanded. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm really right about it, but they make me angry. And them wanting to declare something a machine gun when it isn't is a problem. Because it's illegal. They're not legally supposed to do this. When I ask them an opinion letter, am I allowed to build the equivalent to a Thompson Center Encore, where it's a takedown firearm, which one of the combinations is a short barrel rifle, according to them, which it really isn't. It's just a pistol. But they decided to declare it after it was on the market for 20 years, or whatever the fuck it was, to be a short barrel rifle when it isn't. If I ask them, if I make a duplicate of the gun that made it to where you're not legally allowed to get away with that shit, are you going to come after me? And they refuse to respond, and I have to send the request 3 times. And they finally said, no, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to do that. They avoided a court case as much as they could because they wanted to be able to push people's buttons. The ATF is not a good organization, and they're not innocent. Okay, that's my shitting on the ATF moment, which I will do. You don't even have to put a nickel in my ass. I'll go off on this, okay? You already noticed that. We've already spent 8 minutes here. Now let's do something that a Christian fundamentalist truther, Trump-supporting, anti-liberal, all liberals are reptilian shapeshifter, baby eater kind of person said. Actually, no, he didn't. It's a YouTube channel where he decided to use politics, rhetoric, and propaganda sinking to the level of Hillary supporters here. You know that expression, fight fire with fire? That doesn't mean you put out a house fire by lighting the garage on fire. That means that under extremely limited circumstances, sometimes you have to use what is destructive to you to be able to prevent destruction to you. In very limited cases. Fighting fire with fire is about backfires and fires. Fighting fire with fire of, if someone's shooting at you, shoot back, is not fighting fire with fire. Please stop using that expression incorrectly. Because you're telling everybody you're willing to burn your house down by burning your garage down. But anyway, let's go for it. Stop using propaganda to fight propaganda. So we got a truther, aka anti-factor, going on and on for a video that's actually relatively short. I'm very happy it was. Let's assume they will do a forward trace from the business that sold these to your house. If you buy a part that involves a gun in any way, shape, or form that leads directly to you when it's not legally required to trace. We do not do serial number tracing and gun registry for triggers, you stupid fucks. So let's assume all of your viewers for this YouTube channel are paranoid enough to be into making what they think is going to be a machine gun. It is almost, but no, not really. But they're not going to be paranoid enough to make sure it's done through a proxy or done in such a way it's not shipped. That way, just use a disposable card. Just have it shipped. Let's move on. Then we also have to assume they will seize all your guns and jail you because reasons. It's legal for you to own this. It's illegal to manufacture it, is their claim. They're going after the manufacturer, not maker. You can make one of these fast reset triggers out of almost any trigger kit. They're just hinkier. These two patented versions are more controllable. You can turn off the ability in most of these things. There's only two of them here, but there's dozens like this. Generalized trigger kits can be done this way. People do this. It's a hack. And if we assume the Constitution doesn't say it's illegal to own a trigger, and if we assume the ATF trying to regulate triggers that they claim are machine guns, because they actually do that, a bottle opener is a machine gun to them. The ATF is a bunch of idiots. But if we assume this, then it suggests they're coming for you if you own certain guns. The person goes through a long trail of thought processes and then bitches out at the end. Let's assume they're coming after you for certain guns. And then he invokes 1993, which is an allusion to Waco. Well, I wasn't saying Waco. Yes, you were, you little bitch. The ATF is coming for you if you own these guns, is clickbaiter truther speak for the ATF might come for you if you own these triggers and you allowed it to trace to you when you're not required to. You are not required in the United States. Even if you buy the Lee Harvey Oswald reproduction scope that everybody claimed never worked when it does, and it did that day, he dropped it and broke it. It's not legally required that you register a trigger mechanism or a sight or the butt pad on your gun. I forgot. Another YouTuber. All of you out there that deliberately showed that you own these on your YouTube channel, daring the ATF to show up at your house, you may get what you asked for. The ATF considers this provocative behavior. And on and on and on the guy goes. And then he goes into, this is the video I posted, and then the rest of the video is a repost from like a year or two ago of him telling people how to buy whatever they want to and make it tracking to them very difficult. So let's transliterate this for you people who aren't listening. Yes, I'm denigrating a person who claims to be a Christian, and hey, let's have prayer requests, and every trope, every joke about gun owners in the United States being religiously motivated, militant, and paranoid. No, he's not. It's a perfectly good channel. But he's decided to post rhetoric and propaganda as fact. The ATF is not coming for your guns or going to shoot your dog or pull a Waco on you. Although they might, because they've done those things. Repeatedly in some cases, depending on how you do the definition. The ATF is attempting to get away with regulating something they're not allowed to regulate. Oh, I said it! The ATF has a whole shit ton of things that should regulate potato chips and just call themselves the party group. Party van. Yeah, I said it. They want to regulate shit they're not allowed to regulate. The ATF is legally forbidden from regulating anything outside of a very narrow group of things. Rocket launchers, bayonets, stupid shit that was restricted and regulated by the National Firearms Act. But they want to regulate every fucking thing they can get their hands on as a machine gun. Yes, if you make a conversion kit that drops right into an AR, including dropping in a bubblegum wrapper, I might add, or a cigarette butt, and it turns it into a machine gun, they want to regulate that. If you don't own one, they can't regulate it. If you buy something that ostensibly is legal at the time and refuse to be an activist and make yourself visible to them, they can't regulate it. So yes, the YouTube channel that I'm criticizing, I'm not naming out loud, but a bunch of them do the same thing, are hiding behind wrapping themselves in the flag and the blood of Christ and a bunch of other shit for all I know, while claiming they're not being activists when they're telling people to do, or telling people lies about this shit, while other people are telling you how to get away with doing something that was legal. And yes, the ATF is wrong, but lying about them being wrong empowers them. That's my rant for the day, and I'm denigrating the channel in and of the fact that they lied about this by doing a whole bunch of assumptions, 4 of them in a row, that aren't real yet. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. JJ Luna's How to Be Invisible. Go read the damn thing. Bye.